There is no wrong way to put pen to paper. There is no wrong way to open up a notebook or share a thought or a feeling that you're having. Journaling doesn't just have to be physical pen to paper notebook. It can be any space that you give yourself permission to take what's going on in your body, in your brain, your heart, and getting outside of yourself.
Welcome back to the Recalibrate podcast, a series of conversations and ideas that connect us more deeply to others and therefore ourselves. Each episode is designed to help you reflect and reconnect, leaving you feeling inspired to make positive change on your path towards a more purpose-driven life. Before listening, if you could go ahead and rate the podcast wherever you listen to it, that would be super, super helpful. And follow us on Instagram at recalibrate.podcast so that you can stay connected. Let's get into it.
I think we'll start with a little recess.
You're a recess girly.
A recess girl. Okay, what's your first?
I'm going to have some yerba.
Ooh.
Have you ever had?
No.
It's super caffeinated.
You're not a coffee girl, are you?
I love coffee.
Oh, every time you're always like, do you want to come for tea?
I don't drink coffee at home. But I drink coffee.
Tell me more.
In the dynamics of conversation.
Okay.
And in the dynamics of going out. I'll sometimes have cold brew at home. I like to make it, but I make matcha.
Okay.
But only iced. Like I only have iced drinks and tea in my home.
Okay.
It's a weird thing. I don't know. Maybe it is because I don't like to make it the French press. Like I try to be cool, but it's like intimidating to me.
It's scary. I'm a big coffee at home maker. I love, we need to cheers. Cheers.
Yeah.
I'm a big coffee at home maker. I have a whole setup and it brings me great joy.
I want to have
need to come over for
coffee with you in your home.
I would
to have a yummy mug.
Oh my God, I'll give you my favorite mug because I just adore you. I feel like what mug you give someone else is really representative.
Says, do you like me or not?
I saw this TikTok video and this girl was like, this is the mug that I give you if I love you. This is the mug I give you if I'm trying to impress you. It's like all of her, she goes through like
this is the mug of if I'm down to do dishes today.
Yeah, like if I have like a cute boy over and like this is what I'm trying to, she's like, if I give you this mug, I fucking hate you.
If I use this plateware when I have guests over, I really like you.
Yeah. So there's like a spectrum, but you're the hostess of the most. I'm so excited to be here with you. Like to have you on the podcast has been an absolute dream of mine for so long, and we've tried to schedule for so long, and I'm so glad that we're doing it.
Me too. I feel like we're always in good conversation, but I feel like the bumps that we've got to come sit this recording were meant to happen
100%
because it all aligns.
I know. And I feel like, we could record any conversation and just put it right up on the podcast.
Yeah, and people would eat that up.
Like, you should have just heard our conversation for the past hour and a half because she was a goodie.
If only they could have heard that, but some things are not meant to be.
I'm really excited to have you on specifically because you've just created such magic in all the spaces that you've hosted, and especially in the new year, I think it's perfect timing because people are really looking to A, start new practices, and B, find spaces where they can show up in, and you are the perfect person for both of these things. So this is Miss Emily, if you haven't seen her before.
Hey.
She is one of my favorite human beings of all time and hosts the absolute most magic journaling classes. And I just absolutely adore every space that she creates. This lovely place that we're
in my home.
It's her home, which like already the lava lamp is going, the candles, the snack. Like every time I walk in here, I just feel immediately at ease, and you just exude that in every single space that you're in.
Thank you. I feel like really grateful to find the space of hosting and creating events in my work, but also in my personal life.
Yeah.
For example, a huge metric of success in my adulthood is getting a purple couch.
Oh my God.
When I realized, you can do whatever the heck you want in your home. And one of those things being, if you want a purple couch, you can get that purple couch. So this was like, you've made it. Me getting my purple couch was I'm making it moment.
Magic of success. Some people have KPIs, and this is your KPI.
My KPI is, does Emily have a purple couch in her home?
Check. You succeeded.
I'm rich.
I love that.
Yeah.
She's rich and purple couches and love. Do you want to share a little bit about journaling classes and what you're hosting right now, and then we can get into how they came to be?
Yeah, so to get current, journaling classes is a space where I just like to hold room for people to show up as they are, whatever headspace they're in. It's a great place to come solo and do something with yourself. It's a great place to meet someone and walk away with a friendship. It's a great place to bring pals or a date on. But all of my workshops are centered around self-care and mindfulness with an emphasis on the power of pen to paper and community. we're in like this post-COVID era, and it's been really fun to see how people want to gather in 2024 and 2023. And I feel like everyone is itching to get together in person, and I've always been a very in-person person. But with the pandemic, I had to adapt, and I had a flourishing business of journaling classes virtually. But really, like, my bread and butter is, and what brings me my most purpose is gathering people in person and getting together IRL. So lately I've been hosting a lot of workshops around Brooklyn and New York, also collaborating with people that I get to align with. And I feel really grateful that I can be intentional with who I work with and making sure they get who I am, they like who I am, and I like them, and align with what they're building, and we get to build something together, which is really cool.
Yeah, we're saying that the best collabs that we get to do are just with the people that we just want to do good stuff with good people.
Yes, I love making cool shit with good people.
It's incredible, and I'm so excited for all of the collabs that you have coming up. You have so many goodies. I will link everything down below so you guys can check them out if you're in the area. But I love this idea of you creating space for people to have pen to paper, because it sounds so simple, but I think the practice that a lot of people are always trying to cultivate is a journaling practice or a place to be more introspective. And sometimes it just feels so freaking hard to actually put your pen to paper, like you said, and get that momentum. Like, how do you keep that practice for yourself, and how do you encourage other people just to like take that first step?
I love that you bring that up, because my journaling practice has evolved over many of years. It looks different in one season than it does the other. And a huge reason why I do these is to simplify it, dumbify it. There is no wrong way to put pen to paper. There is no wrong way to open up a notebook or share a thought or a feeling that you're having. Journaling doesn't just have to be physical pen to paper notebook. It can be any space that you give yourself permission to take what's going on in here and in your body, in your brain, your heart, and getting outside of yourself. So whether that's a to-do list, an audio message, a notes app, those are all forms of journaling to me. And I really want to be able to hold space for people to feel empowered to do that, but also giving people tools. I didn't go to school to be a journaling teacher, but I do feel like I have a lot of nuggets and room for people to exist in these spaces and learn something about themselves and the processing of how to put pen to paper. And so for me, like, journaling is something that has saved my life. It has been such an instrumental tool in my tool belt, and it's helped me come to the conclusion of when a chapter's ending or decisions, or helped me pave the way for documenting high and low moments in my life. And it's just been something that has helped me so much, and it's something I'm passionate about. And when I see something that's helping me and it's something I'm passionate about, I want to help others and share that passion with other people too.
Yeah, and I feel like you do that in so many different ways, even when you just have your bi-weekly mindful mornings. That's such an easy way that's really accessible for people, that doesn't feel super intimidating, or they don't have to go in person, or it doesn't have to be in New York. Like, you create this space in the morning where I've just gotten to join a Zoom, and then I see all these little humans journaling together, and it feels so connected, because sometimes journaling can feel a bit isolating in your own thoughts. It's really good to develop that relationship with yourself, but sometimes I've had journaling where I've come to an insight or I have this like big conclusion, and I don't really have anyone to share it with. And I think what's so special about the spaces that you create is not only do you create like the journaling piece and you help people develop the tools for that, but also you create a lot of room for connection with other people.
Yeah. You're saying all of my favorite things. Journaling, it typically is a very personal practice. It is a personal practice, and it will always be, whether it's in my workshops or not. But when we build that bridge between like this personal thing to also community and connection, I think when we gather together, we heal together. And so being able to hold space to not just let people be heard, but have people be seen and to feel less alone. A lot of what journaling classes is breaking loneliness. Like, New York can be a very lonely place, and being a young adult or a human being can be very lonely, and I'm very pro making people not feel lonely and knowing you're not alone. Like, the thoughts that you're having, someone else probably is having that too. So like you said, when you're doing this deep, beautiful work in your private journal, but you bring it to light in conversation, or someone is sharing something and you're like, oh my gosh, I had that same thought in my journal. It really is such a revolutionary space to exist with one another.
I'm laughing because every single podcast episode that I've had has come to this point of we are living this shared human experience. And that's why I feel just like so aligned to talk to you about this, because the whole mission I have with like sharing the podcast and these conversations is to promote those moments of, oh my God, you have that thought? Like, I thought I was the only person in the world that had that thought. I've never heard it being said out loud. And you create all of those moments with journaling classes, and that's your intention, to just help bridge this gap in all of the ways that we feel isolated. And I actually never shared my journal with anybody until I met you. And I had an amazing breakthrough journaling session in the morning. We hung out and you had said, you should read that out loud. Like, you should read that. We were at an event, for context, where like people were just sharing anything. It was like an open mic, and you could share your half-written notes app. You could share a journal. You could share a story. And I went into the event like with no intention to share anything. And I was just like in conversation with you saying about my journal, and you were like, why don't you share that? And I was like, this is personal. I felt so scared. Like, I had a moment of fear when you said that. And then like I had a little adrenaline excitement moment. And when I shared it, I felt so embodied and empowered and powerful and connected with people. And so many people were like, I feel the same way. And then after that, like, it helped me to be more open with people.
I think sharing creates momentum.
Yeah.
And when we share things that is on the page and we take it off that page, it brings it to life more. When it's brought to life, you're giving it more energy, things get moving, and you see it really work out in your real being. I think the vocalization of taking what's on the page and speaking out loud is super powerful. Also, with the sharing bit, I always say this in my journaling classes, is something I've learned recently in my adulthood, is you never have to accept an invitation. And any place where I invite people to share, it's an invitation. So if they need, during my gatherings, to just sit privately and with themselves for that time being, so support that.
Yeah.
They don't have to accept my invitation. Actually, I'm proud of you if you don't.
Yeah.
But when they do, I think sharing and journaling is so vulnerable. It's as vulnerable as it can get, but I really believe like vulnerability creates connection. Vulnerability is connection. And when we share also, whether you're sharing to connect with someone else or you're sharing for whatever reason it is, that is stepping outside of your comfort zone. Yeah. And I love stepping out of my comfort zone. I think I'm always supporting my friends to sit in that discomfort and to seek discomfort sometimes even too.
Yeah, another thing that I found is really helpful with sharing, it helps release this shame that you have around ideas. And this is a concept I've thought a lot about this year, of like, what parts of me do I feel I openly share with others and they're like praised and loved and everyone accepts them? And then what are those other parts of me that I feel like I have to hide or I have to portray a certain way around certain people because I'm worried about them not being accepted? Those are what creates that sense of isolation and those feelings of, I'm the only person in the world that has that thought, because in reality all of us have
there's no such thing as an original thought.
No unique thoughts. TikTok has shown me that like every niche little thought I've had in my head someone else has had, and the more that I share, the less shameful and like the less weight and fear I'm having towards these experiences and emotions, because it creates this connection. Like, you cannot have connection without vulnerability.
Totally.
And it's so scary. You don't have to just like go around on the streets telling all of your stories to every single person that you meet, but if you have someone that you feel safe with, or you're in a space that feels supportive, it is a really powerful practice to let go of the shit that you've been holding on to. We carry so much stuff, like we don't have to hold on to it in the way that we do.
Yeah, and what I'm working on actually, as I'm expressing vulnerability, it's like I'm actually working on holding some stuff close to the chest. I love my private life. And I think because I do share so much online, people often feel like they know me better than they do. But there's so many layers to our beings. I share a lot online, but there's a lot people don't know too. And so that's a whole other conversation. But I really do think, like we've been saying, vulnerability equals connection. I feel like when we share, it's not anything to be shameful of. And the more we share, the more we connect. And I feel like this word is used a lot as like this cringiness, the word cringe. Like, what is as cringe.
I hate
There's
it.
no such thing as cringe. And the people that are judgmental of maybe the thoughts that we have, I think that's just projected insecurity.
100%. It's self-judgment. Any limitation that you're placing on someone else is a judgment that you put on yourself.
Yeah.
Like if someone sees you and they're like, oh, that's cringe that she is like being so loud and expressive, or that's cringe that she's like posting on social media or whatever, then they place that limit on themselves. Like, I can't be loud. I can't be expressive. I can't post on social media.
Right.
'Cause it's a fear. Yeah.
And it's also a matter of like, I joke I'm like a recovering people pleaser. Like, I want everyone to like me. I need everyone to like me. But I've also come to the place of I actually don't want everyone to agree with what I have to say.
Yeah.
I don't want to be everyone's cup of tea. I'm okay with not being everyone's cup of tea. And when I do share, like I love sharing online, and it's a form of creativity for me.
Yeah.
And when I share, if it just helps one person,
100%.
I'm okay with 10 others not liking it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I had that same thought when I started posting the podcast and when I started posting on social media. Originally, there is this fear of like, ooh, what if you have those intrusive thoughts of like, what if that one person sees it? Or what if I don't even know, like the people that you're just scared to see your content. And then I'm like, I actually don't care at all. I like what I'm sharing. It feels, as long as it feels authentic to you and you're showing up and like, this is me, then what is cringy about it?
Yeah.
You're not cringy as a person.
Yeah.
If you're sharing what's true to your heart and what's on your mind, there's no way that it could be cringy.
It's so funny. I like joke about all of my crushes on Instagram, and like sometimes I've checked myself of being like, who am I posting this for right now? That's an interesting dynamic too. And I do love the spaces I hold for journaling classes because I think good creators create for themselves first and then their audience.
Yeah.
A lot of what journaling classes was built off of was I wanted to create spaces that I'd want to show up in.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I just hoped and prayed other people would want that too.
Yeah.
And I feel lucky that people do, but I've been doing these for 5 years now. I've been sharing online for even longer, and I'm sharing so I can connect with myself first, process sometimes even my own emotions, and then connect to other people.
Do you feel like your relationship to journaling has changed since you started journaling classes?
Yeah, I've had to also check myself a lot there too, especially as journaling classes turned into something that I was having as ticketed or was sustaining me at some points. Like I had to make sure that my relationship with pen to paper stayed really healthy, stayed super private, stayed personal.
Yeah.
Because I do share a lot online. I should literally share bits of my journal.
Yeah.
My workshops are very intimate, are very personal. So there's seasons. I love to look at life in seasons. I'm a human being. People think like I have this insane regimen of journaling. Sometimes I do, but sometimes I will go like a few weeks not putting pen to paper.
Right.
Sometimes my journaling will be like in a Google Doc, or sometimes I won't be writing at all. And I think as someone that's facilitating and hosting those spaces, acknowledging that and saying, hey, it's okay if you're not journaling every day is really important. Too.
That's so important to share, because I think it's so easy to look at you and be like, Emily just has this such strong journaling in every single day, and like if I can't do it every single day, then what's the point? I'm never gonna journal. Like I can never do this. But like that is just not the point, to be so rigid and structured with it.
Right.
Like yes, it is really helpful to do a practice of morning pages, and we can talk more about like what morning pages look like, but it's really permission giving. I think that you share that with other people.
And I never want to resent my journal.
Yeah.
I never want to resent showing up on the page for myself. I want it to be something I look forward to. Some days it's tougher than others though, and that's okay.
Do you remember the first time that you journaled?
So funny, I like look back at my old journals. I had this Vera Bradley spiral bound, like a blue Vera Bradley printed journal. And it was, I think like 2009. Remember when like YouTubers were like makeup tours and like swatches and stuff? In that journal, I had like this cheap Claire's eyeshadow palette, and I like swatched on my journal like every color.
Oh my God.
And I would write in what the color was. And then on the next page, I had a crush list. And then on the next page, I was like, the journaling for me then was like, Dear Diary, I can't believe Tom told Sarah that I have a crush on Joe.
Oh my God.
It was that back and forth. It is really fun to see how the practice of pen to paper has evolved from Dear Diary to whatever it is now.
Do you have a specific way that you journal, of like sometimes I notice I'm just recapping my day and I'm trying to like hold on to memories or hold on to moments. Sometimes I realize like I'm processing through something, or I'm like journaling about something I'm fearful about. Sometimes I'm trying to work through a scenario or just like brain dumping. Do you notice it's all of that for you?
It's all of that for me. I have found some things that don't work for me. I found things that do. And again, it's like the seasons. It's depending on where I'm at and what I need. And I try to really listen to that. So I know for me, the bullet journaling, really organized notebooks do not work for me.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm writing in a sketchbook that doesn't have lines. So that's working for me. And my handwriting is a little bit messier and fluid. But a practice that I do and really emphasize on is the active stream of conscious journaling. Really spring cleaning the mind, brain dumping, and really letting it rip on the page. I stream of conscious journal every single day when I'm journaling every single day, but I'll often open up my journal not knowing what I'm going to write about and letting it flow from there. But I also come to my journal similarly when I want to document like a really good date I went on, or I want to document a really hard decision I'm trying to work through and come to make a decision on. But it can ebb and flow. And then it's as simple as sometimes just writing gratitudes. I am huge on that as well.
So walk me through what stream of consciousness looks like if you've never done it before. You sit down, you open your page, and then you literally just write down anything that comes to your mind.
Yeah, you sit down, open the page, date the page, make sure you document when you've written it. But sometimes I suggest people to put a timer. All you need is 3 to 5 minutes, not even. Sometimes you just need 2 minutes. And you'd be surprised how much can come up and out of you. Sometimes I suggest putting on a really good playlist or a longer song and just writing for that period of how long the song or a meditation, something that has a start and an end. So whether it's a timer, a song, or a certain amount of pages, that is a good way to like really get into flow. And with stream of conscious journaling, when you're putting that pen to paper, if you hit a point where you're not sure what you're thinking, or if your brain kind of just goes, then you're like, if you don't know what you're thinking, then you're writing, I don't know what I'm thinking right now. Or you're doing a doodle, or you're writing your name in cursive until eventually you do find that flow again. And a thought is coming out, and it's leading to more thoughts and feelings as well.
Got it. And stream of consciousness is like this morning pages practice, right? To really just, you wake up and you have this monkey mind maybe that has like a lot of impulses or urges or intrusive thoughts, or it's just like kind of running all over the place. And it's like this practice, like you said, of spring cleaning of, okay, I open my journal and I'm just going to literally write down every single thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah. So morning pages come from this author, you know this, but for a little context.
For all of you.
Yeah. An amazing author. It comes from The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And Julia Cameron's made a 12-week course, essentially coming back and finding your creative higher self. And in that 12-week course, a requirement, an ask is doing these morning pages. So waking up every morning and the first thing you do is hitting the page with some stream of conscious journaling. And that is an opportunity to, like you said,
monkey mind.
I love that. And really, sometimes for me, the morning pages is a place to dump everything so I can be detached from it for the rest of the day. If I get everything out right away, then I will have less attachment to those things so I can be present.
It's like a space to hold it.
Yeah. And the first time I did The Artist's Way, I found that my morning pages were super negative, anxious, depressive. I was going through like a really hard time with some family stuff, and I didn't like what I was getting down on the page. So instead of being judgmental of that, my therapist suggested taking a red pen and doing the morning pages, but taking that red pen and circling it and Xing out so it just stays on the page. Because I was nervous that those thoughts, feelings, experiences would stay with me.
Yeah, that's actually a thought I've had a lot. This practice of visualization and affirmations and verbalizing and subconscious mind. Like you hear all these things of like what you say to yourself is really important. And sometimes I get scared. I've never heard someone else say this. What I'm writing is going to be stuck in my subconscious mind or something. If I'm writing like I'm having a negative body image day, I don't like how I look, I'm depressed, like all these things that I want to get out because they're my stream of consciousness, but I'm scared. I don't want to perpetuate the emotions.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes writing those things down does release them, detach you from them. But sometimes it does stick with you, and it's that thing that you keep repeating in your mind. So what helped me was just that physical act of being like, no, I do not claim this. This is not my truth.
Yeah.
And leaving it there.
Yeah, because it's also a good practice of self-awareness to really see what's coming up for you. Because I think a lot of times we don't even know the stories and the amount of shit that we're just perpetuating in our own minds until we bring it to paper. And it's almost like a reality check to be like, whoa, this is what my inner world looks like right now. I did not realize it was this negative. To have that moment of, okay, maybe I needed this in your face way to be like, no, this is not my truth. This is not what I accept. I've even seen some accounts start to paint over their journals, and they'll paint something like more positive or vibrant, which is just like reframing in a way. So many creative practices, and I think it's easy to think of journaling as just one specific way, but
it's a million.
So many.
And I think journaling is a good way to get really honest with yourself.
Yeah.
It's the place to get honest with yourself. Often, no one's going to read it but yourself.
Yeah.
Often, people ask, do you read your old journals? Very rarely. I don't recommend reading your old journals unless you're in a headspace and have room for that.
Yeah.
Journaling for me is in real time processing. It's conversation with myself and my higher power even. It's a space to get honest, but I think people are judgmental of themselves when they are like, I only journal when things are really bad, or I only find myself documenting, writing down what I've done that day. And that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's fine.
It can be whatever you need. I like that it's a take what you need practice. And I think your classes are the same way, where you create the space and people can really just like take whatever they need that day. Maybe I come to your class and I'm not really looking to journal. I can just doodle or do whatever, and I get the connection from people. Or sometimes I want the opposite.
Yeah. One of my favorite things that I hear sometimes is, especially in my mindful mornings, it's been a consistent thing every other week for 2 years now.
Wow.
And like we mentioned, my mindful mornings, I keep it accessible, it's free, it's only 30 minutes, and it's how we start our day. I've had people come, have never shared, come, share every time. My favorite compliment I've ever had is people that share, I love getting on your mindful mornings and listening to it like a podcast. People just tune in to listen, and they're like, I make my morning coffee with you. It's a calming space where I feel safe.
So special.
And that's my dream come true. So I love being able to have journaling as a physical act, but also as a community and a space where people can show up and feel like they can take what they like and leave the rest. That's one of my favorite slogans. Take what you like, leave the rest. The space I hold is you show up, get what you want out of it, and there's no wrong way to navigate time with me.
I love that. Very non-judgmental, open-minded. It's like very expansive to bring what you need to it. Another thing that I love about all the spaces that you create is how you just romanticize all of the moments. I feel being here, as you can see, like the candles are lit, like the lights are beautiful, and that's how all of your journaling classes are too. Like they're gorgeously curated spaces, and you make everything feel special. And I haven't even told you this yet, but I saw one of your posts and you had said like, light your candles before you journal in the morning, like set it up, do it up, put your favorite smells on and set the mood for yourself. And that's something that helped me so much when I was feeling like a little bit more resistant to journaling. I was like, no, let me like light my candles, let me get cozy, let me get my favorite blanket, get my coffee and do all these things. And that made me have this really beautiful space that I was excited to journal in, and made me feel so cozy and warm in my own spaces. I think you just do such a good job of that when you're alone too, like not only at your classes. What's your favorite things to bring into that?
I love where I exist, and I want to always keep it a beautiful place. I love being able to share the beautiful things I create with other people. It's really important for me to create journaling classes to be a space that's safe, that's inclusive, to make sure it's always a place where people can show up in any headspace and hopefully feel a little bit better, but also feel like they can exist exactly as they are and know that they're supported in that. And so I want journaling classes to be like a warm forehead kiss.
They are.
I want to be in your grandma's living room. I want it to be like you're sitting like this having a cup of coffee with me. I want people to know that by the end of the class, you can come and hug me. And that's really important to me. And it's simple acts of like just lighting one candle, dimming the light, taking those overhead lights off.
Oh my God, my number one rule is no overhead lights.
No.
I trained Ben, my boyfriend, I will not let him turn on an overhead light. If he turns on an overhead light in his room, I'm like, excuse me.
Excuse me?
What?
Turn that off. Turn the candle
Shut off.
Yeah.
Like,
lamps only.
Lamps only. There can be no overhead lights. I replaced all the overhead lights in my apartment with like smart bulbs that are warm, red, cozy orange lights.
I have a tool belt. The light bulbs that can change colors. When I'm not feeling good, I'll pull out that extra really fancy lotion. I'll bring out those slippers that I treat myself to. I'll put on my silky robe. It can be as complex as that, but something that's really important important that I want to emphasize on is it does not have to be that deep. 100%. It does not have to be that complicated. If you don't have any candles, but you need to get a thought out, just crack open your journal.
Yeah, or your phone, literally right in your notes app. There's these two spectrums that we're talking about, and I think they can be helpful because, again, it's like a take what you need. If you're someone that journaling feels like it is so hard and you cannot just like get yourself to do it, literally make it the lowest barrier to entry possible. You don't even need to buy a journal. Take out your phone, write on a Google Doc, write on a piece of scratch paper. But if you are someone that is looking kind of uninspired, like you have all the things, you have that journal you paid $50 for or something, and you have a ton of places or whatever, you have the time and space, but you're just feeling like uninspired, do it up.
Yeah, exactly. Treat yourself to that extra pen always.
Yeah.
But I also just don't want people to, I never want people to think, I can't journal, I don't have a nice notebook.
100%.
You can journal on a napkin.
Yeah, literally anywhere.
Anywhere. Of course, it helps to treat yourself, take yourself on a date to the bookstore and get a nice journal, but it can be as simple as a $1 spiral notebook, and that's your journal. Sometimes my best journals are the most affordable.
It's so interesting to see people's different preferences. One of my best friends, Delaney, she writes all of her journals in these composition notebooks that like you literally, when you were in middle school or elementary school, you would go school shopping for.
The black and white ones.
Yeah, like the black and white marble ones. And that is every single one of her journals. She's obsessed. And I absolutely could never, because I hate the lines. I don't like how it feels. The paper is not it for me. I have a lot of different ways that I journal. I often journal digitally. Like I have my iPad and I like to journal there. I like to have like unlined pages. I have journaling preferences, but it's just everyone has what works for them.
It's such a personal practice. I think I love personal style.
Yeah.
But I love seeing people's tastes come to life.
Too.
And often that can come through in what utensils they use to write. Who would have thought? For me, especially because it is such an important piece of my life, is treating myself to that nice pen or exploring a new pencil or a new journal.
I know, it's so exciting. Do you know when I was little, I used to make my parents buy me journals every single time we went to the store, and I would write in one page, or I would never write in them at all. Like I just liked the cover and I didn't want to ruin them. And I had an entire dresser drawer, like full ash dresser drawer of untouched journals.
We call that the journal graveyard.
Like that is
many people have that.
I was such a psychopath as a little kid. Like I was such a perfectionist and like didn't want to ruin them. Sometimes I still have that tendency. Like if I get a really nice journal, I'm like scared to brain dump in it.
But that's so fine. You can have journals that are only for aesthetics.
Yeah, like a certain purpose. Sometimes I still think about like what happened to those. I remember I had this like super sparkly gold journal that I just like adored. But I think it's just funny how we gravitate towards different things and how it shows up.
Yeah, I think it's super common. I know that was tied to your perfectionism, but I think people often, I've heard a lot, people say, I always start a journal and then I never finish it. And that's okay.
Yeah, they can be unfinished.
Yeah.
A question that I think I hear people say a lot is, what do I journal about? And I know we've given some ideas of ways that they can journal, like stream of consciousness and morning pages, but something that you curate really well is the prompts. How do you think of your prompts?
I've never had anyone ask me that. My prompts are like my babies. There's many of things that make my journaling classes special and unique and different, but a big part of that is the prompts I create. You're not just coming to my workshop and you're being given a question and where I'm like, okay, here's the question, go journal about it. It's like, here's this thought, here's these questions tied to it. Let's peel it back a little bit more and look a little bit deeper. And that's how I create the prompts. Also, how I create them is I look at what's happening in my life. Selfishly, mindful morning prompts specifically are tied. Every single night before a mindful morning, I make the prompts. And I've decided mindful morning prompts are specific for the community, but they're also for me. And I make the prompts based off of what's going on in my orbit and what I'm needing at that time. Similar to how we've shared, sharing makes us feel less alone. I found that when I make prompts based off of what I need, there's gonna be someone else that needs it too.
Yeah.
And so just thinking about common themes or things that I'm working through, navigating, talking about what's happening in the world is how I make the prompts. I love the question of like, share a few gratitudes, but it's like, let's dig a bit deeper than that.
Yeah. What are some examples of your favorite journal prompts that you've had?
Well, you have to come to these journaling classes to come, y'all, to find out, y'all. But I love taking like a common theme and turning it into a bit more of like a story or a plot.
Ooh.
For example, if we're thinking about what we want in our life or what we're letting go of, One of my favorite prompts I've made is really digging into like what a garden looks like. And first it starts from like taking a plot of soil and taking out the weeds. So that being, what do you want to get rid of in your life? Then laying down fresh soil. What is that going to look and feel like?
Yeah.
And then planting those seeds. I know this, like, conversations around planting seeds, growing trees is a common theme in practices of mindfulness. But I love having these themes of like letting go or calling things in and bringing them into more tangible ways of, we have this garden, we've planted our seeds, we're watering it, now we have the flowers, but what does, once you've had your flowers and fresh produce, like what does that dinner table look like? What does that bouquet look like? How does it feel? And like making it just yummy and juicy and adding more context to it. I come from a journalism background, so I do have a lot of tools from those lived experiences and that skill set I have in my degrees, but I think creative writing is possible for anyone.
Yeah.
And so when I'm setting people up with more than just like the question of what are you letting go of and more of what are you plucking from your garden, it allows people to get creative a little bit more. And creativity, for me, it's survival.
Yeah.
And I want to hold space for creativity as much as I can for other people. So when I am creating the prompts, it's a lot. I call in creativity a lot.
I love how you described that, and I think it's so imaginative. It completely elevates journaling. It's not just brain dump all your trauma and the shit that is depressing to you. It's like you can actually explore so much of the expansion of your mind through journaling and create these new thoughts. Like I was talking to a friend the other day and I was like, do you know that you have, 60,000 thoughts a day and 90% of them are repeat from the day before?
Yeah.
And this practice of creativity is a way to create new thoughts. If you ask someone like, what does your garden look like? What flowers, what colors, what are you planting? You're opening someone's mind up who have never thought about that. Like we're so used to just like, okay, wake up, have my breakfast, have my coffee, go to work, go to my workout class, finish, go to bed, repeat. Living in this hamster wheel. And what your prompts do and these questions and this time and space that you've created does is it creates these moments that pull you out of your hamster wheel and help you to actually thrive and flourish in your life rather than just survive and be feeling like you're a cog.
Yeah, I love so many thoughts that just sparked for me. Like I love being able to break out of those cycles. I also love, I think my journaling classes are a space, like I'm happy to hold your hand and walk you through it.
Yeah.
I know for me, accountability and also sometimes having someone that's leading me or guiding me through something helps me. It creates new ideas for me. It helps me better understand myself. It allows me to dig a bit more deeper. So with my prompts and with workshops, I'm happy to guide or push someone to dig a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think it's really important sometimes as well.
Good answers come from good questions. And if you don't have good questions, you're never going to get good answers.
Yeah.
Because you can sit with someone and say like, oh, how was your day? Or what do you do for work? And you're going to get the surface level questions. But if you're able to sit with that same exact person and ask them like, hey, how do you think of your journal prompts? Where did that come from? How did that start? You get a completely different version of someone.
Yeah.
And you're able to make this person come alive and hear what they're passionate about. And in the same way, like you can spark that within yourself by asking yourself good questions. And a lot of people don't know how. Even when you just described that, I was like, huh, I've never even had that visual in my head. Like, that's so beautiful. I want to go and like journal. It's fun.
Yeah.
Imaginative.
I love the curious part of myself.
Yeah.
I think a huge value of mine is curiosity. And I think that stems from my mom always encouraging me to stay curious and ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. And I think when we are curious, it leads to more. I also think my background in journalism has helped me ask good questions, have hard conversations, have good conversations, and to lean into that word of curiosity.
Yeah, I love that. And I think a non-negotiable for me in friendships and in relationships is that the other person is curious. I realize like that is like probably one of my top core values is curiosity. And it shows when you're with someone that is innately curious, because it's not just like in a creative sense, it's you're sitting with someone and you're like, when they're talking, you're like, oh my God, tell me more about that, say more. And like, I feel like all of our really close friends that we exist with, that's like our top phrase is like, say more, tell me more. I want to hear more about how you're thinking about that. Like open my mind to your brain.
And that's why we have such connection and depth and conversations.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It makes me think on a date I was on, I had a guy tell me, you ask such good questions. And one, I could take that as a compliment, but two, I also was like, F you, okay, I'm not interested anymore. Realizing like, oh, this date is actually interesting and fun because I'm the interesting and fun one. In that dynamic of relationships, it's a two-way street of like, yeah, I can ask questions, but how are you responding to them? Sometimes conversations are questions you're asking each other. And I think that's really beautiful too.
Yeah, it can be very one-sided. I've heard that before too. Just knowing when you're showing up in dynamics like that is really, it's interesting. But I'm grateful for our space together and like just the curiosity that it blends into such interesting ideas. It opens up into a whole new world. Like I've had friends that I just feel like I talk about people with, or I just talk about like I recap my day with, and like it's so boring. And of course there's space for that in any relationship. Like we'll recap like how was your trip and stuff like that. But when I'm with you and when I'm with certain people, I just have this ability to go explore. And it feels like very exploratory. Conversations are so open and expansive, and they feel like they can take me to places I've never been and have those new thoughts.
Totally. And sometimes I'm like, it doesn't have to be that deep. Sometimes gossiping is fun, but I'm really not interested in the gossip. I'm not interested in who's what. And the good friendships I've noticed in my life are the ones that it's friends. I'm like, I don't even know what you do for work.
I know, it took so long to get to that point.
And what a gift. That shows like one, the type of person that you are, we are, how we exist, but also like the depths that friendship can be. Like I can know so much about you without knowing typical first things you tell someone about you.
I love that. What has been your favorite takeaway of recent that you've noticed through a journal? Or like what themes do you notice coming up in your journals right now, like in your personal practice?
Thank you for asking that question. I'm noticing conversations around love for myself. I recently have been getting into flower design. I hosted a flower pop-up.
Oh my God, it was the most magic thing ever. Like to see you in that element, it was truly, you were a magic angel fairy. I just was squealed immediately when I walked into the room. I was like jumping up and down at how literally just delicious that you look.
And to see my friends react like that was so validating for me. But that experience really helped me come back to myself. I had this feeling of new love. And as I'm loving on the relationship with myself, but also dating, I've come to realize like I've had beautiful dynamics with many people, but I don't think I've so deeply, truly been in love with a partner. I'm like the most we're lovers.
Lover girl.
I love love.
Yeah.
So that has been a tricky dynamic for me of being like, oh my gosh, I'm such a lover and I love love, but I'm not sure if I've fully gotten to experience that in partnership. And the feeling I had with this flower pop-up is like, this is what I want love to feel like. This is what I imagine falling in love is like, for real. So that has been a common thing I've been working through. Also, topics around creativity have really been coming up for me. Earlier in this convo, we were talking about how like creativity creates room for new thoughts. And I've been having so many new ideas, and I think that is sparking through the room I have for my creativity right now.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you wrote about falling in love with yourself in your most embodied state. The piece that you shared in your newsletter and on your social media about what it felt like to host that flower pop-up was so fucking beautiful to read. Like I was literally I texted you, I was sitting in Devocio in like one of our favorite coffee shops, like crying. Like there's like tears like falling out of my eyes.
Here I am crying,
I just like, I could feel it. Like it's so innate when you're in that state of being so embodied. You can just tell like your energy is just fucking magnetic and it's exuding in all areas of your life. So it's like when you fit that one puzzle piece into place almost, it spreads out into every other area.
Yeah, like leaning into that being and that embodiment for myself has changed so many energetic things for me.
Yeah.
And as I'm falling in love with myself and these dynamics and these relationships, it's allowing more things to be thrown at me. The more I throw at the wall, the more it's going to come back at me, and I love that. I think as I continue to, I hope till the day I die, continue to evolve, become, change, and I have that willingness and desire. But I do think that flower pop-up was a pivotal point for me in my becoming, and it's allowed me to nurture these new blossoming relationships and discover more about who I am, what I want to become, and what is in my orbit and circle. Because of that, like, more beautiful things are entering into my orbit and circle because I have room for them.
And also, like, beautiful things come into your orbit because you are a beautiful fucking person. Everything that comes to you is because you're exuding that energy out into the world. And I think the way that you're showing up, I mean, I've only known you for the past 6 months, which is absolutely insane. Since I've met you, like, I've gotten to witness you in such an embodied energy that feels so magnetic, that is drawing so many people in, because when you're tapped into that state, that's when the flow, like, of energy received comes. Like, that's how I felt too, as like I've come into this year feeling like my most embodied, authentic self. That's when I meet my dream partner. That's when I meet these super aligned, like, best friendships that I've ever had. When I get this job that feels really aligned, like, it makes sense. Like, it's not by accident that that happens, but we've also experienced what it feels like to be at the depths with yourself. Both of us have struggled with depression, with other mental health things. It's just so much. We've felt the depths of that, and now we're experiencing the other end of the spectrum.
And I never want to lose touch of what it is to be in the trenches.
100%.
We know what it's like to be in the trenches, and I wouldn't change that for the world, because the depths of being in it, the depths of grief, hardship, pain, anxiety, depression, I'm going to feel it again.
Yeah.
I'm going to have those lived experiences. I reckon I will be depressed again.
Yeah.
Depression is something I navigate every day, but because of these hard lived experiences we've had, I choose, you choose to dig so hard in and do that work. And something also, as I'm feeling these alignments, is I became at one point so conditioned to not allow myself to enjoy. And so what I'm doing right now is trying to actively allow myself to enjoy these good things that are happening to me. Instead of, I've caught myself creating my own chaos. I've caught myself getting swept up in some kind of crisis that's not mine. Those hard things that have happened have made room for me now to have these good things that are. So giving myself permission to be in it and be present in it is really important to me, is also really hard. And I think if I allow myself to enjoy them, they're going to stick around longer. For so long, I often have been like, when's that next shoe going to drop? When am I going to have to fix something? When am I going to have to rescue something?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get out of that scarcity type mindset.
Yeah, it's so easy to feel scared when things are going good. I remember I've had this since I was little. Like, I would be so excited for a vacation, and the first day I would already be like, oh, I don't want it to be over. Or like, I'm having a memory now that feels so good. I'm having like the best day, and I'm like, I don't want it. It's gonna end. I don't want it to end. But that's like such a scarcity mindset of thinking that A, you're not worthy of these experiences, or B, like you said, they're not gonna last. But you have the capability to know that, like you said, to bring it back to first thing you said, it's just seasons of your life, and some periods of our life are going to be more contractive, slow, introspective, maybe not as like playful, outward, exuberant. And going through these patterns time and time again kind of just show you, oh, the less that I abandon myself during those times, the easier that they are to navigate. And you just can allow yourself to like move with the flow of life rather than spending so much time resisting.
Yeah, no resistance, less self-abandonment. The more we show up for ourselves, the more we'll be able to show up for others. The more things will flourish and come to life.
And it's hard because I find when I'm in those periods, I get so zoomed in and I forget. I'm like, oh my God, I'm stuck like this forever. It's never going to go back to this other way that I was living. I'm going to feel this way always. And obviously that's not the truth. Nothing is permanent in that way. The good stuff is impermanent. The bad stuff is impermanent. And you just have to kind of take it as it is and enjoy everything that's coming out.
Yeah. All emotions pass, whether they're good or bad.
Yeah.
Even on the good days, I still have hard thoughts. When great things are happening, I still am doing hard things.
Yeah.
But we can do hard things.
I love this conversation so much. I could literally we could go for
I know.
hours.
Thank you for having me.
I thank you for being here. This is like one of my favorite conversations I've ever had. It feels like the most connected to my heart. So I just thank you for sharing and for existing.
Thank you for being in conversation. I love you.
I love you so much. Okay, Emily is hosting so many amazing things. So you need to go to all of them. And please tell me what's coming up that you're excited about, and we can share everything below.
I have lots of good things happening in January and February that are really aligned with creativity, community, color, the new year. Lots happening virtually and in person, and there's something for everyone.
Yes.
So I welcome you to any and all of it.
Amazing. We'll link everything down below. I hope you have a lovely day and you feel a little bit more inspired to pick up a journaling practice in whatever way that looks for you. And if you need some help getting there, Emily is the perfect person to get you there.
No judgment. We have room for it all. There's no wrong way to do it, but I got some tools to help.
Yeah. Thanks so much for listening, and we will be back next week.
Thank you. Yay.